I woke up to the sound of my neighbor screaming. Not just any neighbor. Karen. The self-proclaimed queen of our neighborhood. There she was, standing at the edge of my property, her face redder than a fire hydrant, shrieking like a banshee. But that wasn't even the best part. Her brand-new luxury SUV was completely trapped, perched in the middle of a massive trench I had legally dug around my driveway. A trench with a fully functional medieval-style drawbridge that I could raise and lower at will. Rewind 2 weeks earlier, and none of this would have made sense. Back then, I was just a regular homeowner, a guy who wanted to live in peace, maybe grill some steaks on the weekend. But peace was impossible with an HOA president like Karen. She treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom. She was the type who measured your grass with a ruler, fined you for the wrong shade of beige on your shutters, and sent threatening letters if your car had a speck of dirt on it. I'd dealt with her nonsense before, but I never imagined it would escalate to outright war. The trouble started one morning when I walked outside with coffee in hand and found Karen's oversized SUV parked directly across my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she just pulled in for a second. But as I approached, I saw her standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, wearing that smug expression she reserved for moments when she was about to make someone's life miserable. "Morning, Karen," I said, trying to be civil. "Your car's blocking my driveway." She smiled, like a cat watching a trapped mouse. "Oh, I know," she said sweetly. "It's my business. We've had some complaints about your driveway." I blinked. "Complaints from who?" "That's confidential," she waved her hand dismissively, "but we've decided your driveway doesn't comply with HOA standards." I looked at my driveway. It was a perfectly normal concrete slab, nothing fancy but certainly not breaking any rules. "That's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with it." "Well," Karen said, inspecting her nails, "unfortunately, the HOA board has the final say. Until we conduct a proper review, I'll need to keep my vehicle here to prevent further infractions." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "You're joking." "Nope," she chirped, pulling out a clipboard and scribbling something down. "Oh, and I should mention, if you try to tow my car, that'll be considered harassment. HOA rules." I wanted to argue, to yell, to do something. But I knew Karen. She thrived on confrontation. She wanted me to lose my temper so she could slap me with more fines and complaints. So instead, I took a deep breath, nodded, and walked back inside. The next few days were hell. Every morning, I woke up to find Karen's car still blocking my driveway. The HOA refused to help. When I called a tow company, they refused too, citing some vague community agreement. Meanwhile, Karen acted like she'd won the lottery, strutting around like she owned my property. Then came the fines. Apparently, I was now being penalized for not using my driveway. Yeah, you heard that right. I wasn't the type to roll over and take it. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. I spent the next few nights doing what I did best, research. If the HOA was going to weaponize its rules, I was going to find my own legal loophole. After hours of digging through zoning laws and property codes, I found it. A single line in the local ordinances that changed everything. There were no regulations against making security modifications to private property. That meant I could legally build a barrier around my driveway, as long as it wasn't a permanent structure. I double-checked, triple-checked, even called a lawyer friend to confirm. It was airtight. That's when the real fun began. The next day, I rented an excavator, hired a few guys, and told them I wanted a deep, wide trench around my driveway. Not a little ditch, a full-on medieval moat. They thought I was crazy, but hey, money talks. By the time the sun set, my driveway was surrounded by a 4-foot-deep trench, wide enough that no car could cross it. The next morning, Karen stormed over, ready to gloat. But when she saw her SUV stranded in the middle of the trench, her expression went from smug to sheer horror. "What the hell is this?" she screeched. "Oh, just some security modifications," I said, barely suppressing my grin. "HOA rules say I can do it." Karen's eye twitched. "You can't just dig a hole around my car." "Sure I can," I said. "You see, this is my property. Since you refused to move, well, I had no choice but to build around you." She looked like her brain was short-circuiting. You can't. This is illegal." "Nope," I said, pulling out a printout of the zoning laws. Totally legal. In fact, I even filed a permit. City approved. Karen's jaw clenched so tight, I thought her teeth might crack. "You're going to regret this," she spat. "The HOA will not allow this." I shrugged. "Guess we'll see." I walked back inside, leaving her standing there, fuming. The best part? I wasn't done yet. The trench was just the beginning. If Karen thought this was over, she was in for a shock. I had just started designing the drawbridge. The next morning, I woke up to furious banging on my front door. I already knew who it was. Karen. When I opened the door, she jabbed a perfectly manicured finger at my chest. "You need to fill that hole in right now," she seethed. I took a slow sip of my coffee, enjoying the way her eye twitched at my lack of urgency. "Oh, you mean the trench?" "Sorry, can't do that. It's a legal security measure." Karen let out a sound somewhere between a growl and a screech. "You have exactly 24 hours to fix this, or I'll make sure the HOA fines you into oblivion." I pretended to think about it. You know, that's interesting. Because I was about to make some more improvements. She narrowed her eyes. "What kind of improvements?" "A drawbridge," I grinned. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a fish gasping for air. "You can't just put a drawbridge in a suburban neighborhood." "Sure I can," I said. "I already checked the regulations. As long as it's a temporary structure and not a permanent gate, I can build it. And since you're so concerned about my driveway, this will help keep it protected." Karen looked like she wanted to throw something at me but instead stormed off,